Welcome in to a mini episode of the Stephen Lovegrove Show. All things are possible for the one who believes, and you are the one. I am so grateful for you, so thankful that we are connected, and glad to be here with you today. In this episode, I'm going to share with you a powerful principle that you're going to want to hear when it comes to holding on to the vision inside your heart. Particularly, I'm going to share with you something that was inspired by a recent client conversation that I had that involves a common misconception and mistake that I see a lot of people falling into, and we're going to keep you out of that if you stay with me today. So, welcome in, everybody. If you are here with me on YouTube, take a second to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Every single time you do that, it makes a difference and it helps us out so much. As always, this episode is brought to you by all of my incredible, generous partners all around the world who believe in this work and choose to partner with me, to go on this journey with me, and to support it, to make these messages available for you. So thank you, partners. You know who you are. And if you are interested in becoming a partner, all of the information is available online for you at lovegrovepartners.com. Now, I'm going to share with you the setup of this client conversation in just a moment. But before I do, I want to begin this episode with one idea in particular. And I want to invite every single one of you who is watching with me now on YouTube to type this out as you hear me say it, just to integrate it a little more deeply into your brain, okay? So, starting idea for us today. If you are a leader, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a coach, if you are a business owner, if you are a CEO, if you are somebody who considers yourself a visionary, if there is a dream or desire that is within your heart that you are truly committed to bring to life, okay? If any of those or many of those apply to you, here's what you need to know. And this is the truth that I want to begin with today. It is your job to continually create expectation. That's the idea that I felt led to begin with in this mini episode today. And I want to invite every single one of you, write it down if you're taking notes, type it out in the comments here on YouTube. It is my job. Personalize it, own it, say it in first person. It is my job to create expectation. Here's why I want to begin with this idea. I've done a lot of teaching on the fact that we don't get out of life what we want. We get out of life what we expect. And I've shared with you how hearing that quote from a man named Victor Bach years ago utterly transformed my life and my mindset and my thinking. And I actually did an entire series on the power of faith and the power of expectation. And it is really a classic Stephen Lovegrove teaching series. I know some of you were not here when I was doing that series, but what I'm actually going to do is link it in this video and in the episode description. That would be a wonderful place to start or to go next for somebody who is watching this today if you have not listened to this series. But without repeating all of that stuff that I've already taught, the bottom line is we don't get out of life just automatically what we want. We get out of life what we expect. And I don't mean that in any kind of weird, overly mystical, superstitious way. I mean that just in a very straightforward, literal way, just based on how God set this universe up to run. There is power in your faith. There is power in your belief. There is power in your expectation. And I felt called to just begin this episode today at the time of this recording, at the start of a new week, reminding you that It is actually your job, especially if you're a leader, an entrepreneur, somebody who's building something in the world and working on some desires and holding a vision inside your heart, whatever part of that is true for you. It is your job to create expectation. If I could say that another way, what I really mean there is, it is imperative that you are actually expecting what you want to unfold. And this is a thought that I want you to carry with you for the rest of your life. It's not just a one and done thing. It's not just a one-time relevant thought. This is something that you need to understand and integrate and remember for the rest of your life. It's something you want to pay attention to for the rest of your life, so that you can always take inventory with yourself and ask, am I truly expecting this to happen? Am I truly expecting the outcome that I say I'm working towards? Am I truly expecting that I'm going to get there? Am I truly expecting that it's going to show up? Am I truly expecting to see that report, to get that notification, to celebrate that good news very soon? Am I truly expecting it? Now, as I begin with this truth, I want to make sure that I say it with a heavy, heavy, heavy dose of grace. Because many of you who are in this community know grace is actually my word of the year, and I am committed to grace, and I am committed to always sharing messages of grace, and I am committed to giving myself and others so much grace in a way I never have before as I go on this journey this year. So, let me be very clear. I don't want you to take this truth and use it against yourself. Use it as a tool of judgment. Use it as a tool of guilt or shame. That is not what I'm saying here. That is not the intention of this, right? And so there may be someone listening or watching today who feels like, well, Stefan, if I'm being honest, there is something I want. There is something on my heart. There is something that I'm trying to work towards and hold the vision of and create in this season of life. But this is a tough episode to hear from me right now, because if I'm being real, I don't expect it. If I'm being real, it feels far away. If I'm being real, I heard you ask those questions, and really, I just kept thinking, no, I don't know. Not really. Not so much. Maybe not as much as I wish I was able to answer that with yes. And if that's you today, here's what I want you to know. It is so okay. In fact, it's very normal. It's very human. It is a universal experience. It is a place we have all been, to find yourself in a moment feeling like, I do really want this thing, but in my heart of hearts, I'm not expecting that. And I can recognize that. I can be aware of that. I can admit that honestly to myself. This is where I'm at in the moment. I want it, but I'm not really expecting it. There is a gap, we could say, between desire and expectation within me. And I want you to know, if that's where you're at right now, that's okay. We have all been there. I have been there so many more times than you might possibly imagine. That happens to all of us. That is just a normal experience on anybody's journey of creation. So I want to be very clear when I say this. I'm not judging you. Please don't judge yourself. There is no judgment here if your expectation is very low or nearly non-existent right now. There's no judgment there. And I'm not sharing this truth so that you can just feel bad about yourself today, because that's not going to produce any positive change. I'm sharing this truth so that you can recognize potentially your very best opportunity, maybe your most important opportunity, your most relevant opportunity to do the work right now. That is where I'm coming from when I begin with this truth. It is your job to create expectation. So it really is okay if you came into this episode with a giant gap between desire and expectation. It really is okay if you find yourself in this moment realizing my expectation has slipped somewhere along the way. And wow, it was hard to hear those questions because I really don't think I am expecting it, if I'm honest. It's okay if you're there. Let this be the perfect message for you that is reaching you at just the right time, that this is the thing you want to focus on next, that this is what is meant for you. This is your opportunity to do the work because it is your job to continually create expectation. And I find it's actually a lot easier when I own that, because I actually don't beat myself up for the moments where I realize I want it, but I'm actually not expecting it. There's a gap. I now just get excited about my opportunity to build my faith, my opportunity to increase my faith, my opportunity to do that work. Because it's juicy work, it's exciting work, it's life-changing work. And that brings me to the client conversation that really sparked this episode. So I was talking with a client, and we had just discussed this topic of expectation. And we just did a little moment of taking inventory together. Are you really expecting this vision that we're talking about to happen, to occur, to show up? We did a little moment of taking inventory the same way that every single person listening to this, I pray you had a little moment of inventory as I asked those questions earlier. Am I really expecting this thing? And my client, who is an incredible, powerful, loving human being and leader in countless ways that I could describe to you, has a lot of self-awareness and was willing to be honest with himself and with me in that moment and say, I don't know that I'm actually expecting it. I want to believe it, but I don't actually think the bigger part of me is expecting it right now. I think I'm expecting to fail. I think I'm expecting disappointment. I think I'm expecting bad news. And my client asked me, how do I change my expectation? And then they said something that was very interesting that ultimately led me here to this episode that I'm sharing with you. And I believe it's going to speak to people and help people and bless people all over the world. And thank you, God, for guiding me and being with me as I share this thought today. But my client said to me, I really do think that I can get there eventually. That place of belief, that place of faith, that place of expectation that I need to be at. They said, I really do think that I can get there, but it feels like it's going to take a lot of time. It just feels like it takes time. And without going into any of the details or obviously sharing anything with privacy and confidentiality, the bottom line is we were talking about a timely situation, a situation that involved time, a situation that was time sensitive. And so I could feel the tension that this was creating as my client is sharing with me. I do think I could get there, but it feels like it's going to take a long time. It feels like it would take time. And of course, that's unsettling when I'm in a time-sensitive situation. And so this is the place that I felt guided to go, sharing this thought with you today. I want to speak to every single person listening today who feels like, Stefan, I can kind of see myself getting there someday, getting there eventually, getting where I need to be in the future. I can see it happening. I can see it working. I can see myself getting there, but man, does it feel far away. It feels like it would have to take forever. It feels like it wouldn't be able to happen anytime soon. It feels like it would just take time. And I want to speak to anybody today who is in some combination of discouragement and or frustration and or fear. And I want to share with you what I shared with my client in this conversation the other day, because my client was saying, it takes time, it takes time, it takes time. And so that makes me discouraged, and that makes me frustrated, and that makes me afraid that I'm not going to be able to get what I want in time. Because I'm with you that I've got to get my belief and my expectation there. And I can even see that as a possibility, but I'm not there yet, and it feels far off, and it feels like it's going to take time. And I have never said these words as a direct quote that I can remember before, but it was like a divine message came through me for this client, and I believe for many of you out there in this moment. And I suddenly said to the client, let me offer you this thought. I don't believe it has to take time. I would offer to you, it takes practice. And I want every single person watching this on YouTube to type this out in the comments right now, again, as a way of integrating it deeper into your brain, because I want every single one of you to sit with this thought for a moment. It doesn't take time. It takes practice. It doesn't take time. It takes practice. It doesn't take time. It takes practice. And I shared with my client the way I'm going to share with you now. I believe that little distinction makes a world of difference in how we approach a situation where we need to build our expectation. Because when we look at it and say, it takes time, that inevitably is going to lead us down a path of discouragement. Because now it feels far away. And now it feels like we're going to be stuck waiting. And now it feels like we might miss our opportunity. And it's not going to happen anytime soon. And nothing is going to change anytime soon. And what I have found from experience is that when we look at it and we say it takes time, we lose momentum. We lose drive. We lose our belief and our excitement and our faith in the moment. And it just feels discouraging. It just feels frustrating. But this little reframe can make such a world of difference in my experience, because when instead of looking at it and saying it takes time, we look at it and we say it takes practice. Now I am in my power. Now there's an action step I can take. Now there is something I can do about it. And so instead of just feeling like I'm in a powerless holding pattern with nothing to do but wait, almost like somebody who's stuck at an airport with canceled flight after canceled flight after canceled flight, just sitting there in a terminal waiting. Instead of ending up in that place, I'm in an empowered place, and I remind myself it takes practice. And that's good news, because I know how to practice, and I actually want to practice getting my belief behind what I want. And I actually can choose to practice right here and right now. And I loved having this conversation with the client the other day. I believe they left this call so encouraged and empowered, walking into their life, recognizing that they were surrounded by opportunities to practice. And so as I share this episode with you, wherever you find yourself in your day, your week, your month, your quarter, your year, I want to encourage you today with the truth that there are so many opportunities to practice in your life. And what if it doesn't take time? What if it just takes practice? What if practice is the way to shift your mindset? What if practice is the way to transform your sense of identity? What if practice is the way to become that person? And practice is the way to bring it into manifestation. And practice is actually the way to change your whole life and get everything you want. So, I'm going to leave you with those truths and simple reminders today. It is your job to create the expectation. That is always true. That is continually true. Let that be a reminder to you today. It is your job to create the expectation. It's okay if it's not there right now. Don't judge yourself for it. Don't stop because of that. That gap can be filled. It's just an opportunity to do the work. And best of all, it does not take time. It takes practice. And that should move you into inspired action in the here and now, because you have beautiful opportunities to practice, to use your faith, to build your expectation right where you are today. So I'm going to leave this episode here. Let me know what spoke to you most in the comments below. And at the time of this recording, let me just say, I have so much goodness coming your way soon, family. Make sure that you're subscribed here. Make sure that you are subscribed on the podcast if you are not already. I have a new Rave Church experience that is actually being recorded tonight here in my home studio, so to speak, and coming your way soon. I have a new teaching that is in the works that is absolutely going to blow your mind. Lots of good stuff coming your way soon. So thank you for being here and spending this time with me. If this episode spoke to you and was helpful and useful in a practical way, feel free to share it with your community and pass the goodness on to somebody else. I will see you back here soon. I love you. I believe in you. The best is yet to come.